everybody, and welcome back to another episode of DemoPOD, the Demolition podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Marr, but it's really all about the stars, and those stars are Demolition themselves, Barry, Smash Darso, Bill, Axe, Edie. How you guys doing tonight?
Very good, very good.
Doing incredible, except for these microphones and all this camera crap.
Yeah, it's tonight right now while we're recording this, but Barry's actually been trying to get his technology ready for, since this morning. So he's got the phones, he's got the mics, he's got the computer, but we got you now, and that's what counts.
Yeah, I should have called up my grandkid. He could have been over and had me on right away.
You definitely starting off this episode a little flustered. There's the smile, so now we're good. But we were having some fun at the expense of Barry in pre-production, trying to get things figured out. But look, that's why I come to a studio. So I can laugh, but I am useless. I'm younger than you guys. That doesn't mean I know what the hell I'm doing. I have a producer here in a studio. We got our producer, Dan, who's over remote in his place. So we've got a lot going on to make this machine operate smoothly. Bill, how you doing? All right?
Very good, my friend. Very good.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun episode because we're going to cover two monumental events in the careers of both you gentlemen, individually and collectively as Demolition. We're going to talk tonight about Survivor Series, the inaugural Survivor Series, which took place Thanksgiving night, 1987 at the Richfield Coliseum in Richfield, Ohio. Heard a lot of interesting things over the years about the Richfield Coliseum. It is in Richfield, Ohio, of course. I always called it Ridgefield. That's probably my Jersey taking over, but it's Richfield. And from what I understand, this arena was constructed in 1974. It opened with a Frank Sinatra concert. And the logic behind having this arena in the middle of nowhere was it was in between Akron and Cleveland, Ohio. And they thought, let's draw the traffic from two major cities. I've heard lots of different things about the traffic jams getting in and out of that arena. But it's been known for many, many interesting things. Some great rock concerts with Elvis Presley and The Who. It was actually where the boxing match in 1975 took place between Muhammad Ali and Chuck Wepner that inspired the movie Rocky. And of course, it was the home of not just the inaugural Survivor Series in 1987, but the follow-up in 1988, and you guys played huge roles in both of those events. I want to start off with asking you, though, what it's like to find out you have to be working on Thanksgiving when you're already living that circus life. You're on the road 300 to 350 days, depending on the year. When you find out you have to work Thanksgiving, it's your first pay-per-view in WWE. There's got to be some excitement, but there's got to be like, another holiday I can't spend with the family.
Well, if you're in the wrestling business, and I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure Barry has the same idea, the biggest weekend and the biggest night for wrestling was Thanksgiving Day. And you always wanted to be on Thanksgiving show. Then the following one would be Christmas, and then the other holidays. A couple holidays didn't draw at all, like July 4th, but Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving week, and then Christmas and Christmas break week were the biggest times in wrestling because the kids are off. They had their turkey dinner. They want to leave the house. Hey, let's go to wrestling.
Yeah, it was. It seemed you never got. It was kind of no big deal because you never got to be in any of the holidays. So the family and everything, they'd be doing all their stuff by themselves, and they wouldn't even plan on you being there. But like Bill was saying, that it was good paydays. Everybody enjoyed themselves, but we were working.
And who would want to miss a good bologna sandwich at the arena on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah.
Oh, so they didn't even cater you guys like a meal?
No.
Oh,
I think we got we might have got turkey sandwiches, but I don't actually remember.
But you got to have those after the match. You can't be going to the ring loaded with that tryptophan. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
You know what else too is we'd have matches on New Year's Eve, and I never could figure that out because nobody would ever come to the building. Remember that, Bill? New Year's Eve, we'd have to work. It was like, why are we here?
They should have done it in the afternoon, but there again, then you got football.
Right.
So
right.
wasn't a good. But leading up to that, from Christmas 2 New Year's Eve was the second biggest week. So you wanted to be working that week.
I'm so glad I opened with that question because you just educated me on that. So in the territory days, even pre WWF, you guys always worked on Thanksgiving and it was always a huge night.
Oh
Oh yeah.
yeah, well in our home, and I'm sure Barry was the same, no different. We celebrated our Thanksgiving on the Wednesday, and then I think because everybody knew I was going to be working,
Mm-hmm.
and same thing for Christmas. We had our Christmas early, a day early, because I wasn't going to be home.
That's so fascinating to hear. I never knew that because living here in New Jersey, Thanksgiving Eve is like the biggest bar night of the year, even bigger than New Year's Eve because New Year's Eve people have house parties, there's different things going on, but Thanksgiving Eve is when all the college kids are back home and they turn 21, they're reuniting with their high school friends, so all the bars and nightclubs, not that there's really that many nightclubs left like there used to be back in the day, but the bars definitely are always packed. So I could understand even doing like a Thanksgiving Eve show, and WWE eventually moved Survivor Series to Thanksgiving Eve, took it away from Thanksgiving Day. Now it's just on the weekend. I can understand the logic, though, of Thanksgiving weekend being a busy time, but that kind of amazes me that after having a big full meal that people would want to get out of the house, drive to the arena and go nuts, but they were there, especially for Survivor Series 87. I was watching it last night just because I knew we were going to be talking about it tonight, and it didn't have a big fancy open. It just opened to the arena. I'm sure Howard Finkel did a countdown before you went live, and it was Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon. Ventura dressed as a pilgrim coming out, and they kicked it off to the ring, and we were off to the races, but the fans were going absolutely wild. Did you guys feel any pressure because this was your first time on WWE pay-per-view?
No, I mean it's just another night. It just happened to be taping it, but when you was in the business as long as we were, it's always pleasant to be in front of a big crowd, no matter where it's at. It makes it easier. So there was no pressure about that. We've done TV for a number of years, so I mean, I felt no pressure. I'm sure Barry didn't either.
No, no, not at all. And was that the one where it was a bunch of tag teams? Is that what that one was?
Well,
Yeah,
that was 2 years in a row. I was just going to get to that.
yeah.
So, explain to me the logistics of this because I don't know if anything like this had ever been done before, and I'm not sure anything like it has been done since. A 10-team elimination match. And so, 1987, the inaugural Survivor Series, your first WWE pay-per-view. Demolition, Axe, and Smash teamed up with the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart, the Islanders, Haku and Tama, the Bolsheviks, Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov, and the new Dream Team, Greg Valentine and Dino Bravo, who were being managed by luscious Johnny Valiant,
Yeah.
your manager for a short period of time. And what I found really interesting in the Survivor Series 1987, something that they didn't do in Survivor Series 88, is they go backstage for promos, and it's basically the whole roster. I mean, that's a lot of meat on one team, and you guys are all just screaming. And Bobby Heenan's trying to talk, and they're showing, you guys, and they're showing the Hart Foundation, and you're all just going, yeah, we're gonna get it, and you can't even follow what's going on. Was that something that was pre-taped, or did they literally do that live right before you went out the curtain? Because you guys were really amped up.
Well, I think that particular one, if I remember correctly, we did it right on the spot.
Wow.
And the hardest part with all those teams is picking your time in the ring to do whatever you're going to do. And whoever you were kind of doing an angle with was the one that you kind of work with in there. And that was the hard part of, getting, all those guys together and picking two guys to get in there and wrestle each other. That was the hard part.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you guys. I mean, because I've heard on other podcasts, I know Bruce Pritchard on his Something to Wrestle With show with Conrad Thompson and all them, he's talked about it. The production that had to go into this, because I don't think anything like it's ever been done. I mean, even during my time on the Independents, I took part in a few battle royals. And my understanding of the battle royals and my memories of them were the promoter said, okay, you guys go out here, as long as these four are left in the ring. And you kind of just figure it out. It's a lot of punching, kicking, whatever. But in something like this, there was a lot of punching and kicking in both those matches, but there were some intricate spots. How do you get everybody on that same page? Does the booker or the agent say, okay, this is the order in which you're going to go out? I know for Survivor Series 88, which we'll get to, that was a big angle that you guys were involved in on that one. But as far as everything else, I mean, is it laid out, or are you really calling it out there with that many people involved?
Well, we were calling it on the spot.
Wow.
I don't think, and I think that's one of the big drawbacks nowadays, that a lot of the guys, they want to call the match from the time the bell rings till the time the bell rings at the end, and you just can't do that. You're ignoring the fan reaction. You're ignoring a lot of factors that may or may not come up in a match. You can't plan it out that way. You might have one or two spots with one guy or two guys, and Barry might have one or two, and Volkov might have one or two with his. But to, to lay that out for a 20, 25 minute match, that'd be ridiculous.
You
But
know,
they're trying to do that now.
yeah. What was really crazy was everybody is such good professionals back then. If we were having an angle with whoever we were at the time, and you started working something with somebody, you could call something in the ring, get them out, and have them tag the next guy in that you're working the angle with, and they could do the same thing if they wanted to get, Bret Hart in there. They'd do something to me where I'd tag Bret Hart, and then now Bret Hart would come in and they could do their stuff. You know, what's really hard, you can't hit the ropes though, because the guys are holding the ropes. If you hit the ropes, the guys will fall off onto the floor, So,
because there's like overlapping, because I mean the apron wasn't big enough to hold all
right.
those guys.
So that's what was so good though, is everybody was, so good and professional that it worked,
Was there a meeting prior to the match where they bring you guys all out to the ring, and whether it's Pat Patterson or
No.
Vince, whoever's in charge? So
Oh,
it's just,
no. You never did that in front of a crowd or anything, in front of
no,
any.
I just meant like if you got to the arena early before the doors were open to the public.
Yeah, but there'd be janitors there.
You
There'd
have the
be,
maintenance people and stuff there. You wouldn't do that. Now,
yeah.
there again, they do that now. So
Yes,
I
they
don't know
do.
I don't know what's changed.
Wow. That's so I'm assuming then that all 20 of you gentlemen were just in a big room. And who is conducting the meeting? Because I mean, there's certain spots that have to be called out. So, for example, I'll say like the Rougeaus were the first team eliminated from that match, and it was actually you, Axe, who pinned Jacques Rougeau. He went for a high crossbody off the middle rope. You just ducked. He hit the canvas. You rolled him up, pinned him 1, 2, 3. And that's what I love about the simplicity of that whole era of wrestling, because things that would happen in a real life altercation were endings to matches back then. You would see a clothesline end a match, because in real life, if a 255-pound man hits you with a clothesline, you're not going to get up. So I love the simplicity of that things that weren't necessarily finishers were enough to pin a guy. But is that just happen where you're in there with Jacques and you go for the high cross body, I'm going to duck and roll you up and pin you, and he just agrees?
Exactly.
Wow.
Because they probably knew they were out early. I don't remember when we left, but all the guys are, like Barry said, they're all professionals. The main thing you want to do is have a good match. And the people already bought the seats. You want to bring them back for the next match. So
Yeah,
you
and
called them right there. You don't go in a room and sit and 20 guys are in there because everybody's ego is going to get in the way. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Just call them in the ring.
yeah.
I could understand that, and believe me, I'm not doubting anything that you guys are saying. I mean, but I could understand that with 2 guys, 4 guys, even 6 guys. But with 20 guys, that's a lot of egos. Granted, everyone's a professional, but the fact that there were no botches, I mean, watching that match, everything worked. And I mean, there were guys doing suplexes. I mean, in one of the matches, Dynamite Kid hit a tombstone. It was the first time I ever saw a tombstone pile driver. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on. So to have 20 guys be that simpatico is really unbelievable. I mean, because it's not even like you were just tagging Smash in or Smash that you were just tagging Accent. I mean, there were spots where you'd go in and be doing your thing, and then you'd make the tag to Bret Hart, or you'd make the tag to, and all of that is done on the fly. That's amazing.
That's what I was
Well,
saying.
that's like what Barry was mentioning. We were aware of maybe the Bolsheviks were working against the Rougeaus, or
Yeah.
uh, that. So get him in, and then he tags the other guy in. So you have to showcase the talent.
And then you need to get your own stuff in too, without completely getting the other guy so mad that he don't want to sell for you. I mean, yeah, it's kind of an intricate deal, but it worked. All the guys were such good guys.
Here we are 38 years later, right? And the fact that, I mean, hearing this from you guys, I'm actually a little bit floored, because I thought that you were going to tell me, oh yeah, no, we had to sit in a room with Pat Patterson, and not that you were going to map out the entire match, but I thought at the very least they would say, okay, Rougeaus, you're getting eliminated by Demolition. You guys actually got disqualified for assaulting a referee. Now, is that something that was called on the fly, or did they say you guys aren't getting pinned, you're going to be disqualified?
I'm sure we were told to get disqualified.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
can vouch for that. But
yeah. We were new in that territory, and they wanted to get us over, so they didn't want to pin us.
Yeah. I love how you guys got to do that and leave strong. But it is wild that, when you go a year later, how the dynamic had shifted. But talk to me a little bit about the Richfield Coliseum and that energy. I mean, there's something about the Midwest or Ohio, that whole area where the wrestling fans, I don't know, I just feel like there's an energy about them that's different than other parts of the country. And I'm not even talking about nowadays, because nowadays we live in an era where fans try to one up each other. Oh, these guys in Paris are singing the songs. Well, we're going to do it here in Ohio, or we're going to do it here in California. We're going to sing the songs to all the guys. But the excitement back then, when you guys would come out to the ring, was just different. And I think maybe that has to do with, like you said, because people still really believed it was real.
well, I can remember the Coliseum fondly. Uh, I was impressed with the building, the setup. Like you said, there were some traffic delays, but that was getting out more than anything else. But my experiences there for those two events were positive. And I had a unique situation. My cousin lived there in Richfield, but before the building, nobody knew where it was because, like you said, it was out in the middle of nowhere. But I think the concept of having it placed between Cleveland and Akron was a good concept. Now, I was later shocked because it had good reviews and had good crowds that they stopped using it. So that's one thing that befuddled me.
Yeah, it was vacant for about 5 years before it was demolished in 1999, and now it's just a big open space meadow and wildlife sanctuary. But another interesting thing was that for its time, it was considered a very modern arena. It was one of the first arenas in the United States to have luxury box seats.
Right.
So it's wild to think about that, that it was in Ohio that they had the idea, let's do luxury box seats. Not New York, not LA, Chicago, but an arena in Ohio.
Well, now the Cleveland Cavaliers played there, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what it was, because I remember, the showers were about 8 feet in the air, because the basketball players. I mean, it was locker rooms were phenomenal. It was a really beautiful building.
Yeah, impressive building.
It's amazing to me, though, and I think that says a lot about tag team wrestling as a whole, though, too. Before we even talk about the 1988 Survivor Series 10-team elimination match, sticking with 1987, the survivors of that were the Killer Bees and the Young Stallions. They were the survivors of that match, and that's really interesting when you look back on it as well, because, I mean, not taking anything away from Jim Brunzell and Brian Blair, two great professional wrestlers, great athletes, awesome men. I've gotten to meet them both, but they never got a push for the tag team titles. They never really seemed to be, at least on television, in contention for the tag team titles. but they were survivors along with the young stallions, Paul Roma and Jim Powers. And
Hmm.
did you guys ever get any insight into the booking as to why that was going to happen? Or is it just, all right, we're getting disqualified, we're doing our part, we're out of here? Were they really hoping that there would be some kind of going forward angle with whoever was going to come out on top in this match, if you remember?
I don't recall, to be honest with you, but it's interesting that those two teams, and like you say, neither one of them, they're both great combination teams, and neither one of them got the push that we thought they should have got. But we weren't privileged to what they were planning anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a couple of years later, actually 3 years later, one of my favorite underrated tag teams of all time wound up being Power and Glory, Paul Roma and Hercules. And I mean, those guys, the promos were phenomenal. The in-ring work was great with Hercules being the power, Paul Roma being the quick finesse guy, and everything was just on. And we thought that those guys were going to be, ascending up the ranks, and it just kind of fizzled out on its own. And as far as the young stallions, I know Paul's had his opinions over the years as to why that didn't work out. And I think a lot of blame was put on Jim and vice versa. But I mean, it's literally all of the tag teams from the best era of tag team wrestling: the Killer Bees, Young Stallions, Strike Force, the British Bulldogs, and the Fabulous Rougeaus against the Hart Foundation, the Islanders, Demolition, the Bolsheviks, and the New Dream Team. And I just thought it was really wild that they still had the show open with the Bolsheviks sing the Russian national anthem, and then your guys' music, props to Rick Derringer, God rest his soul, was what everybody walked out to. That had to be pretty thrilling to find out that even though it was your first pay-per-view, they were still going to walk out to your song.
That's good. I don't remember that. That's nice.
I remember that.
I
That was
like it.
huge. It was like, holy cow. And then the guys are probably going, those son of a, you know what I mean? They're all probably pissed because they don't get their songs out there.
Well, and that's what I'm going to talk about too, because you hear about how in the singles ranks, there's always guys jockeying for position or whatever. I mean, you literally had the entire tag team division in one ring at the same time. Nothing was talked about. I mean, you guys knew. Do you remember offhand how far in advance you knew that this was the match that was going to take place? Was it a couple weeks before the event, or how was it presented to you, if you remember at all?
I would assume that you get your booking sheet usually about 2 or 3 weeks out, right, Barry?
Yeah, yeah. And you
So
get staggered tickets about that big,
yeah,
you
and then
know?
you get your airlines tickets, and that beats the booking too. So anyway, we probably knew about 2 or 3 weeks out the location and probably the event itself, but
You know,
that's all you need really.
yeah, you know
Where you're
what's
going to
great?
be and what you're going to do.
What's crazy is, you're on the road every day. You're trying to eat right. You don't sleep. You're at the gym. You're with all your friends all the time. It's like, you really, this is kind of terrible to say, but it's not like it's that big of a deal who you're wrestling that night. So it's not like, okay, what are we going to do in 2 weeks when we got to do this or that? We never looked at it like that. It was just like, oh, okay, we got the Heart Foundation tonight, or you got the Killer Bees tonight. You didn't really plan ahead of time or anything. You just had the match, and that was it. And you know what I'm saying? It was.
Yeah, but do
Yeah,
you think do you think that's something that's specific to tag team wrestlers, perhaps? Because all you hear about over the years are these guys that are in the singles. I hate to call it a division, but let's face it, that's what it is. The singles wrestlers that they want to know what they're doing because it's like they want to protect the gimmick or they want to do whatever. It doesn't seem like, at least from what you guys are telling me, and you're very easygoing guys, but it doesn't seem like a lot of that ego existed amongst the tag team ranks. I mean, you hear a little bit here and there, but it sounds like you guys were just like, all right, yeah, we'll go out there. Oh, okay, we'll put them over. Like, there was no fear. I mean, even when we start talking about Survivor Series 88 in a little bit, you guys found out about that heel turn. I think Bill had said on a previous episode that day.
yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
apprehension of well, wait, what is this going to do for us or whatever. You guys just are like, we have faith in our abilities. We're going to go out and do it.
But
And
if
like
you,
Barry said, I mean, we were on the road like every day, and we're worried about the match we're having tonight. Let's get that one done, and then tomorrow we'll think about tomorrow's. Hell, I can't think about next week. You know, we just want to make sure that every night we're covered and do the best we can do.
And then if you're working an angle with somebody, then pretty much you're going to work with them tomorrow. You might be in Chicago tonight, then you hop on a plane, you might be in New York the next day. Well, you're probably going to work with that same team that you have an angle with, because you're wrestling, 10 times a week. So it's like, let's just have a good match, whoever you work with.
Is there a long line at the payphone back in the locker room for people calling their families on Thanksgiving? Because I know you guys have your routine. You said it's a big night, but there still has to be a part of you. It's bad enough to have to miss the dance recital, right? It's bad enough to have to miss the football games or whatever. But is there a part of you that really does go, oh, this kind of sucks, man. I really want to be home for Thanksgiving. And I mean, does any of that apply when you're in this situation, or by this point have you just fully accepted this is my life and put it behind me and this is what it is?
Well, it was my job, and Barry and I were both fortunate. We had good wives. They understood the business. They could take care of things while we were on the road. We didn't have to worry. I mean, we did see guys that were on the phone all the time because they had to take care of this and take care of that. Well, I didn't have to worry about that, and Barry didn't either. I knew my wife and his wife were going to take charge of lives and things. Everyday things were going to be taken care of. And when we came home, we enjoyed our time at home.
Yeah, and what was great about the wives, if there was trouble at home, they wouldn't, make it a major thing when you're on the road, because otherwise you'd be panicking and you'd want to get home. So they would handle the home front, and both our wives were just incredible about that. Or some people their wives weren't so good, and they'd complain about everything going on, and then the guy'd be miserable for 3 weeks on the road trying to get home. And I mean.
And that also, you have to deal with that too, because if you're wrestling that guy who's stressed out and has his mind elsewhere, now you're putting your bodies at risk.
Right.
Aside from the fact that it might be a terrible match because the guy's mind is elsewhere or whatever. So it is an interesting dynamic how everybody's personal lives do wind up playing a role in that performance that happens when they get out to the ring.
I think nowadays too, they're not wrestling 30 days a month, or whatever. So now when whoever is wrestling, they got 4 or 5 days to plan that match, that one match that they're going to have. So then they know everything that they're going to do, and they can talk with each other and have the best match that they can have. It was hard for us to be able to talk to our opponents.
Yeah, and I mean, this whole thing, I'm just blown away because you guys are so cool, calm, and collected with the whole thing. But from an outsider perspective, to hear when I ask you guys, it's Thanksgiving, it's your first pay-per-view. Now, granted, I knew that you're veterans and you've done stuff like this before, but you guys are just like, oh, it's any other night. Is that just the mindset of the professional wrestler? Or is that also the mindset of the office? Because I'm looking at it from a perspective now of this is the inaugural Survivor Series. First time they're doing it. I mean, now it's a tradition all these years later. It is on Thanksgiving night, and it's live on pay-per-view. And this is in an era, there's no streaming. Pay-per-view is still kind of new. So for you guys, you're just in that routine. We do this 350 nights a year. But is the office a little more stressed out? Are you noticing any different vibes in how they're conversing with you or giving you directions or orders because they feel they have more riding on it?
Well, I would imagine, but it didn't. It didn't flow down to us. I think that they realized most of the teams at that time was involved in that match. I don't think they could. The office would worry about their output or their ability. I'm sure there was added stress on the administration. I'm sure there was added stress from Vince on down to all the people to make this a positive outturn. But you had mentioned before, is it a mindset of the business? There's a lot of the wrestlers that we dealt with at that particular time. that weren't able to handle it. You had to be able to master all these little things going on at one time and still focus on your match. Yes, a life goes on at home. Yes, other things happen around you. But that was our job, and we had to do our job. But there were some guys, and there's some guys today I notice that they just can't handle if the wheel comes off, they stop, they panic. Well, the wheels are going to come off sometimes. But there was no pressure on us. I didn't feel it. I'm sure Barry didn't feel it because I knew what we were going to do, and Barry knew what we were going to do. Maybe some other guys panicked, but we didn't.
And what's crazy is back then, you went through a wrestling camp and you learn these basic things, and everybody learned that at these camps. So if you were a high flyer, then you learn how to drop kick and this and that. Well, we're not going to learn how to drop kick. We're going to learn how to take it. And so really, every match you have, whatever somebody calls out there, pretty much you can do what they ask you to do. And if you call something to somebody else in the ring, they can usually do everything. So that's why you really aren't that nervous about your match. You're having a good time out there. That's really what it is. Wasn't that right, Bill? It was fun.
Yeah,
Because how
yeah.
could you be nervous when you knew everything that you're doing?
Back to Bill's point, though, when you're saying that there are certain guys then that couldn't handle it and maybe some guys now that couldn't, do you think that is just a mindset, a natural mindset, or is that something that comes with more and more experience? Are there some guys that no matter how experienced they become, they're still going to have that screw loose, or they're still not going to be able to focus? Because when I tell people, and I'm talking just casually in my social life or other comedians, I'll be doing a comedy club and comedians will be like, oh my God, you're doing a podcast with Demolition? That's the coolest thing ever. What are they like? And I say, honestly, they're regular, just good guys. You know what I mean? And the fact that you guys, still have your family units intact and all that, like, is that something that you just have to work at over time? Okay, this is how I'm going to adjust to be on the road, or does it take a specific mindset to be able to handle that, to be able to go, okay, I'm gonna miss Thanksgiving, I'm gonna miss Christmas, and I'm just gonna be gone, and I'll make it work when I can? I mean, it really is mind blowing to hear this.
See, it's harder to do this than it is to wrestle in the ring.
Yeah, these are the bloopers. Well, this is why, like, we're talking about a time when none of this existed. We didn't have to worry about podcasting. You had Craig DeGeorge or you had Sean Mooney, and if the microphone didn't work, you just shoved them out of the way and screamed into the camera. Now we have to do things a little bit more civilized and whatnot. But when we get Bill back, we're probably going to move along talking about Survivor Series 88 and how it was interesting. But just another quick rundown of the card. I mean, a lot of matches that really had to do with all the big storylines that were going on at the time. Whereas nowadays, with the current Survivor Series, you might get like one Survivor Series team elimination match, and then it's a bunch of regular singles and tag. But the other matches on that card, you had Team Savage versus Team Honky Tonk Man. Team Savage consisted of Macho Man Randy Savage, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Jake the Snake Roberts, against Team Honky Tonk Man, which was King Harley Race, Hercules, Honky Tonk Man, Dangerous Danny Davis, which I still to this day get a kick out of the fact that they made him a wrestler, and Outlaw Ron Bass. And a little bit of trivia, my first memory of seeing professional wrestling at my grandparents' house, and I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, my uncle was still living there at the time, and he was watching, and it was when Outlaw Ron Bass took the spur from his boot and bludgeoned Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I don't remember if it was Superstars or Wrestling Challenge, but it was one of those syndicated Fox 5 television shows. And they put a big red X over Brutus Beefcake's face. And you had Gorilla Monsoon going, oh, my, this is terrible. What's going on? And, at 4 or 5 years old, I think I was 4 at the time, that was my first memory of pro wrestling. And I was like, what is this?
That was brutal.
Yeah, it was, and I think years later on YouTube, they had it without the X removed and you saw the blood or whatever. But that was my first introduction. So I didn't get to watch Survivor Series 87 live. I think I rented it from the video store a few months after it came out, but it was cool to see how all this different stuff played in to what was going on. And that's a difference that we don't see nowadays, right, Smash, where there's really just that good guy versus bad guy mentality from that era. So it didn't matter if, you know, you don't really know that bad guy. He's a bad guy. He's with us. We can team them up together.
Right.
Kind of campy in 2025 to look at it like that, but back then it worked.
Oh, it was incredible. You know, you're talking about Ron Bass too. He was really good friends of mine and Bill's. We used to travel together all the time. One of the nicest guys you've ever met in your life, and he was vicious in the ring. He was that cowboy that everything he did was so believable, and that was a heck of an angle they had when they did that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So violent. And I mean, you know, if you look at just all the violence, I mean, in that match alone, you know, you guys did the tag team showcase, and then again, you did it in '88. But if you just look at the personal rivalries that went into that Survivor Series '87, Hogan versus Andre. I mean, does it get bigger than that? This is after WrestleMania 3, before the big title change on Saturday night's main event. And Hulk Hogan, Paul Orndorff, Bam Bam Bigelow, Don Morocco, and Ken Patera against Team Andre, which
yeah.
was Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy, Butch Reed, Rick Rude, and the one-man gang. And Andre was the sole survivor. So they literally used the finish of that to propel forward. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
that's why. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, Vince was so good. Like, you know, back to, you know, the baby faces and the heels. He was so good at making you a heel, and so good at making you a baby face. So it's like what you're saying. You throw all these baby faces together. Everyone could be with each other, or every heel could be with each other, and you knew already ahead of time. It was pretty easy to be a heel the way he put you over.
And I wanted to welcome back Axe.
I'm having Barry's problems. My,
You
my
know,
phone died on me.
oh, well, that happens too sometimes. Nowadays, they make those things called chargers. I actually packed one. So because I usually forget one. But if it makes you feel any better, in my brand new car that I just bought a couple days ago, I forgot to transfer my Easy Pass. So when I drove here today, I didn't pay any tolls. So God knows what I owe the state of New Jersey right now. So this is not a great night for any of us as far as
You might own your car. For God's sake.
They can have it as long as it doesn't count as a repossession, right? I don't need the repo man coming for it. But we were talking while you were gone about how, with the exception of the match that you guys were involved in, how the other matches on that card, you know, really were shaping the storylines that took place. We mentioned Hogan and Andre. We talked a little bit about Team Savage versus Team Honky Tonk Man. Another very violent thing that you wouldn't expect to see. That was the big angle with Honky Tonk Man hitting Savage with the guitar when the Hart Foundation held him, and he shoved Miss Elizabeth down in the ring. And, you know, looking back at watching that now, and you see the stunned faces in the crowd, that was like a very violent, risque thing for the times. And then that propelled the whole start eventually of what became the Mega Powers and everything like that. So every little detail of what took place back then really led to something big. Whereas nowadays you see something major happen on WWE TV, and sometimes it's just forgotten about. Or maybe they're like, oh, let's try that and see if it leads to this, and then it kind of goes nowhere. I mean, we just saw that with the John Cena heel turn. We're going to align him with The Rock. Oh, nope, The Rock's busy with movies and press. Nope, forget it, you know. But back then, every little thing mattered, and I think that's what's missing from the current wrestling landscape.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I'm still perplexed with that the heel turn. Anyway, I don't think that it should have happened, but the powers that be sometimes make decisions, and we talked about that before. You don't know it all. Sometimes you have to listen to the crowd because they're the ones that they know what they want to see.
They do. They do. And so now we're going to pivot a little bit, and we're going to go back in time, but 1 year ahead from what we were just talking about. And we are going to talk about Survivor Series 1988. So now you're going into it the second year. Now you're the World Wrestling Entertainment / Federation Tag Team Champions. You're co-captains of the team. And this time it is the Powers of Pain, the Rockers, the British Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation, and the Young Stallions against Demolition, the Brainbusters, the Bolsheviks, the Fabulous Rougeaus, and Los Conquistadors. And it's very funny to me because I owned the VHS tape to this particular Survivor Series, and I watched it countless times. And there's things that you don't pick up on when you're a little kid watching, but now you do. And before this double turn takes place, I am sure there were educated wrestling fans watching that event that night that knew something big was about to happen, because Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon are on commentary, and Ventura is saying, "Gorilla, can you believe the Conquistadors are still in it?" And as a kid, you don't know what that means. But now, looking back, going, yeah, the Conquistadors are in there all the way till the end. That's weird. All these other great teams are dropping like flies, but the Conquistadors are still in there. When you show up at the arena that night, are they basically telling you, all right, guys, same deal as last year, a lot of humanity, a lot of beef in that ring, just go out and figure it out? Do you feel a little more comfortable with that many teams involved because you did it the year before?
Well, I think you feel more comfortable, like you say, like you've done it before. But there again, they never got everybody together and said you're going to do this, that, this, that. Just tell us what we're involved in, and we'll work it out.
Barry's like, yep, we agreed. I love how all you guys are just all business with this, because I just think that anybody would be like, all right, there's going to be 20 of us out there. How do we make this work? And you guys were just cool as cucumbers. Let's go out there and figure it out. Talk to me a little bit about the double turn. You get presented with it. I think you guys said that day, Mr. Fuji is going to lower the rope, let Smash come crashing through, which, by the way, that looked like a painful bump, Barry. I got to tell you, I was watching it last night. You got tangled up. I don't know if you did that on purpose or
my knee brace actually got caught on the rope.
Is that what happened?
Almost ripped my knee off. Yeah, that was my bad knee. So it got caught on the rope going out. But it worked.
Yeah, it worked because it made it. It didn't look like a quote unquote botch. It looked very violent. It looked like, ooh, that was painful. And that's when Axe comes over. And at first, and this is what I loved, and I don't know if this was by design, and Bill, you can let me know if I'm correct on this. I felt this was the perfect move into going babyface, because instead of him going after Fuji right away and being like, what the hell was that? He went and checked on you. And I thought that was more of like a babyface kind of a trait. And then when he turned his attention to Fuji and was confronting him, that's when Fuji hits him with the cane a couple times. And then when you turn, and then that's when he whacks you on the back. And I don't think I need to ask how painful that must have been to take that cane right into the middle of your spine. I mean, I'm sure that didn't tickle.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Oh, okay.
See, the thing is that we always prided ourselves in. We looked like we were killing people, but we weren't.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that Fuji, it must have been all the times you took him to those Chinese restaurants. He went gentle with you.
Yeah.
You're off.
When they came to us with that, though, I can remember, Bill, me and you were kind of looking at each other like, this is a little different because, we traveled with Fuji everywhere, and it was hard losing him as, our manager, because we all got along so well. And that was the hardest part, I think, was all of a sudden now he's not with us anymore. Now we got to wrestle, Barbarian Warlord with Fuji, going against us. I mean, it was a little different feeling.
Well, one of the things that we talked about, and we still talk about, I think that the office jumped the gun. I think we mentioned this before. They were actually confused because people liked us and they cheered us. And I think that they liked us and cheered us is because they respected what we were doing in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to make the turn to be a babyface. I think they jumped the gun way too soon, and but we went with it. It worked out, fortunately, but that could have been a year down the road or 2 years down the road.
Well, I mean, on our next episode, we're going to be discussing Survivor Series 89 and 90. Had they waited, I mean, hindsight 2020, or in this case, they may have actually gotten this right, because I still think that that picture, which we'll talk about in the next episode, of Hulk Hogan, Jake Roberts, and Demolition as the Hulkamaniacs Survivor Series team in 1989, that's iconic. And so if they held off, you guys were really in your prime of popularity, in my opinion, at that point. So I think it probably was the right time. But what I found interesting about it was, again, watching this last night, and I think we discussed this on the Mr. Fuji episode, and someone can correct me in the comments if it wasn't that one, but we definitely discussed this. At first, it seemed almost as if the powers of pain, they were going into that, the baby faces, but those guys never looked like baby faces to me. Demolition's look, you can go either way with it. Powers of Pain, when I just look at them, I'm like, those guys are heels. But they were faces in this situation until the double turn. But when they hoisted Fuji up on their shoulders, the fans cheered. It almost looked like Fuji had turned face until you guys came out. And then when you came out and started putting the beat down, it was, oh no, Demolition are the good guys now. That's who we want. And what I also found interesting about that, too, was the poor conquistadors. And that gimmick has been used as a joke in years since. Is that was the finish of the match. Fuji tripped them with the cane. And then Barbarian hit the elbow and pinned him 1, 2, 3. And then I don't know if the conquistadors did much after that. But at first, I think the fans maybe thought, oh, okay, Fuji's just turning face or whatever. But no, it was a total double turn. And I don't remember a time since that WWE ever executed that as well as they did. I think the crowd that night really played a big role in why that worked as well as it did.
Well, I agree with your explanation. Yeah, but I personally, I just think that they jumped the gun, but it did work out positively.
Now, when they tell you that, though, do you voice that? Because, I mean, especially you, Bill, I mean, you have always been the guy that people say would have made an excellent road agent. You're known as an intellectual. You're known as a guy that thinks logically instead of emotionally. When it's presented to you that this is going to take place, is there a part of you that says, well, is now the right time, or do you just go with it?
Well, I think both of us voiced our opinion on that, and thanks for the comments. I'll have to pay you later after the podcast.
Yeah.
It's not. I only know this because I've heard it from other guys. I mean, Kevin Nash has spoken about it on his podcast about you being that type of guy. I was actually at a party this past Sunday with Bubba Ray Dudley, and he mentioned listening to DemoPOD, and he said, "Oh, those guys, they're just such great guys and stuff like that." So that isn't anything I'm making up. I mean, people say that about you two gentlemen, and that you're all business. And I remember on the one episode we did about Unreal in the Golden Era, I believe that was episode 6. Don't quote me on the number. Barry, your partner, paid you the best compliment. He said, he goes, Bill, you would have been a hell of an agent because you have the brain to think creatively along those lines. So, I mean, if I'm somebody in power and you come to me and say, I don't know if now is the time, I'm going to take your advice a little more seriously than I would take somebody else's.
The only, go ahead, Bill.
No, I was saying I would hope so, but you know, Barry knows as well as I do. When there's a decision made, there was only one person making the decision.
That's
And
true.
if he wanted it, it was going to go whether everybody opposed it or not.
If it was coming up to some kind of a finish or something, and you said something, maybe they might go, yeah, maybe we'll do that. But when they have a major thing like that, where they're going to change us to baby faces, and Fuji's going to do this and that, they've thought about that, for how many ever days or whatever their angle is. It'd be hard to change their mind. So you got to be very careful when you mention to them, why would you do that? You know what I'm saying? It's because you don't want to piss them off either.
But that goes back to the old argument about, why you guys get classified as independent contractors, because technically, if you're really independent contractors, you should be able to have some kind of a say. I'm not going to say full-blown creative control, but, it is your right. But like I said, I think it all worked out in the end, and it was a phenomenal show from top to bottom. A lot of storylines, not just for you guys, but for everyone involved, wound up running the gamut and becoming what is now known as the golden age of professional wrestling.
And
we're going to wrap this one up. And Barry, go ahead.
I can say one thing. What was so great is, the Barbarian Warlord are two of the greatest guys in the world.
They really
We see
are.
them on the road still. So it was fun to work with those guys and do that switch with them because that helped them out too, and they helped us out. So everything was a win-win situation with those guys.
And that warlord is still a mountain of a man. That guy, I mean, it's just like, oh boy. But yeah, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to be back with our next episode, which is going to be all about Survivor Series 1989 and 1990. And that's going to be a really good one because what a difference a year makes. And you're really going to see that in that next episode. Anything you guys want to say to close out with?
I just want to thank everybody for paying attention to us, and get your friends and family and members and join on.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan, you're doing a heck of a job too.
Oh, thank you guys. And you make it easy. And hey, pretend like it is Thanksgiving. You're not going to have an actual Survivor Series on Thanksgiving this year, but what you can do is after you have the turkey and all the trimmings, you can sit down, throw the YouTube channel for DemoPOD up on your big screen TV. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, follow Demolition Pod on Instagram, follow Search and Destroy You on Instagram. And if you want, give me a follow as well at Ryan Marr Comedy. Guys, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun, and we're going to be back very soon. Survivor Series 89 and 90. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here comes the action.